My name's Harry, and I'm one of the Dungeon Masters for Blackwood D&D Winterfest again in 2025. If I was smart, I'd have written one-shot adventures to reuse all the miniatures I painted for last year. And I fully intended to. But I didn't. Join me in part 1 of this short video series for a look at me painting miniatures for this year's Winterfest D&D adventures, both for my games and a few miniatures for friends. In case you don't know about Blackwood D&D Winterfest, it's a 2-day Dungeons & Dragons event held in Bridgetown, Western Australia. Several hundred people attend, and each of the 5 play sessions over the weekend run games on more than 20 tables. That takes a lot of DMs, and I'm happy to be back running games again this year. Last year, I ran a variant of the epic adventures Arena of the Undead Horde box. Lots of undead to paint for that one. As you can see, I'm not a great painter. My work won't stand up against a lot of better work you'll see on the internet. But these are good enough for the table, and you shouldn't let any shortfall of talent stop you from painting miniatures for your games. Your players will always appreciate the effort. Anyway, after painting all these last year, I plan to reuse them in a different adventure this year. That was the plan anyway. This was what changed everything. I saw this Arcane Circle from Reaper Miniatures, and I knew I had to use it as the basis for an adventure. It's a large piece, about 7 inches or about 18 centimetres wide, featuring a central summoning circle carved with mystic runes. There are rocks and 3 central control pillars around the circle. This piece obviously has a story to tell. Let's get it painted. My trick for painting stone is a black primer and then just a good dry brush of a medium grey. It always comes up a treat. You can go lighter or heavier on the dry brush to get a different effect. I've gone for pretty dark granite with this one, but you can go lighter if you want. The runes were a bit trickier. I roughly filled them with some bright gold colour, which was a bit messy initially, but some tidying up and dry brushing knocked that back. In the end, it looked quite effective. This is a lovely piece, and was a great inspiration on which to base an adventure. But you know one essential thing DMs always need in their miniature toolkit? Goblins. Lots of goblins. I wanted to replace my existing okay but boring ones with these fun and cheeky figures from Reaper. These guys are Reaper 6006 Goblin Warriors. There's 4 to a pack, and they're the Pathfinder-style goblins with the melon-shaped heads. I particularly love the tongues on these sculpts. They give the goblins a very enthusiastic and playful vibe. I also bought a set of goblin pyros in the same Pathfinder style. No playful tongues here, but strong and energetic poses. Each pyro goblin miniature has a lit torch, great for giving a real dungeon feel, or setting things on fire to liven up a combat. As you can see, these Reaper goblin figures painted up really well. They give the light-hearted feel I wanted, but still also give a sense of threat and danger. The bandages, adornments and dynamic poses mean they all feel unique. So that gave me 8 new goblins, all in the same light-hearted sculpt style and painted similarly. The different action-based poses of the sculpts gave a great sense of individuality to each figure, while still similar enough to end up looking like a cohesive warband. The more sharp-eyed among you might have noticed the Goblin Warchanter in the back. She's there to give the group an extra attack option. A Goblin Warchanter is a Pathfinder monster that doesn't have a direct equivalent in D&D, but I made up a 5e stat block. As I said earlier, goblins are a DM staple monster. They're great for beginner players, but you can even surprise higher level parties if you use them right, either as distracting cannon fodder in combination with a higher level monster, or with an unexpected addition, like these Goblin Wolfriders. These make an unexpectedly mobile element that can charge through and threaten casters at the back, or just make a more fluid battle with quickly shifting dynamics. Nothing holds your attention like a wolf biting your backside while a goblin is hacking away at you at the same time. While there are some fiddly places on these miniatures to get to for painting, and gluing the goblins to the wolves proved a challenge, they came up a treat. I only superglued myself to a wolf once. I went for grey for the wolves, with a medium grey on top and a lighter grey beneath. You could do similar things with brown tones if you wanted a different look. A wash of Agrax Earthshade and a dry brush with the lighter grey blended everything together. The dry brush really brought out the texture of the wolf's fur. It also masked the hard lines between the two grey colours. I used the same detail techniques to paint the Goblin Riders as the previous ones, so they visually match in with the Goblin band. Unfortunately, these aren't the melon-headed sculpts of the Pathfinder series figures, but I'm hoping no one will notice when I plop them down on the table. Again, I couldn't find any official 5e stats for Goblin Wolfriders, so I used 5e stat block generator to make one up based on some homebrew sources. Anyway, that's it for part 1 of this Winterfest painting video. It's only been a quick look at the Arcane Circle, Goblin Warriors, Goblin Pyros, Goblin Warchanter and the Goblin Wolfriders. These are all great miniatures, and my paint jobs worked out well enough for table use. There's probably several more videos to come in this series. Keep an eye out for the Fire Demon. He was a lot of fun to paint, and my first try at painting flames and lava. This is a huge miniature, and should cause some comment when he shows up on a Winterfest game table. This Wereboar is also a big boy. He uses a similar painting technique as the wolves, but in brown. There's a lot of layering and dry brushing on this one. But those miniatures are coming up later in the series. I hope you enjoyed this first sneak peek at my painting queue for Winterfest 2025. See you in the next one.